I think I'm probably the oldest ex-student alive. I can remember at one stage we were really naughty one night. All of the boarders dropped a book at a certain time, and I can remember writing out 1,000 times, "I must learn to obey rules and behave honourably in preparation." And of course it was too much for one line.
I was there until 1946. We didn't have very good teachers, of course. Most of the teachers were at war. We were just down the road from the girls' grammar school.
It'd have to be a distance away.
My name is Clemens Tulloch, and I started at the grammar school in 1943 when the school was at Morpeth during the war. I left in 48 and came back in 51, and we had a bit of a culture shock because we suddenly realised that at Morpeth, if we got a bit grubby, we had plenty of water. But here it was a different story. We were limited to 2 baths a week, which is very hard when you're only little girls. I've got a lot of school friends, and at my age, of course, I've had to say goodbye to quite a few of them. It is very difficult because it's a link with the past. And I always think of the grammar school as a very happy place.
My father was missing in Malaya after the collapse of Singapore, and we hadn't heard whether he was dead or alive, and 18 months had rolled past, and suddenly one recess time, Mum came very excitedly up to the grounds waving a card, a little brown card, which turned out to be the Red Cross card with Dad's signature on the bottom. I still get weepy if I think about it.
I taught, and then I went back to Sydney. I taught at Pittwater House, which was headquarters, as I say. And I came back as the deputy in about 86, I think. And then we were starting to build the school up, and then Alan Green came on board the year of the earthquake, so it must have been about 89, I think.
To me, the fondest memory is watching the children grow and develop. I've always been in awe of what the children or the students have been able to achieve, both inside and outside the classroom. The school's a very close community, and many of those teachers who have taught our children and have become good friends.
It was very interesting being a boarder actually, because you weren't allowed to contact your parents or anything, but I was terribly homesick. I remember crying in class because I was so homesick. We'd go to a church at the cathedral on Sunday, but it was a rule that none of the girls were allowed to contact their parents or smile even at them. We did have a choir, and I remember we learnt Que Sera, Sera. Remember that?
I remember music appreciation. Don't you remember music
remember
appreciation?
Music appreciation. It was dreadful.
We used to sleep through it.
Well, I had an older sister who went to boarding school, and so I couldn't wait to come to boarding school. And you do, in that situation, develop deep friendships and friendships that last a lifetime.
I boarded from 1957 to the beginning of 1960, and that was wonderful for me because I had 2 older brothers but no sisters. So when I got into the boarding house, I suddenly had 35 sisters.
Just the kids are just so gorgeous. You walk into a classroom and they all stand up and say good morning. At the end of the lesson, they all stand up and say goodbye, which I always thought was just beautiful.
What an amazing place to be in a school in the centre of the city, to be overseeing education for students who come to you at the age of 4 or 5 and leave at the age of 17 and 18. And I think being in a role like this, where you can see that growth, that development, and you can really think about what would make a difference in those people's lives. And from my point of view, that's what the job's about, and that's what I love about being at Newcastle Grammar.
I was at Newcastle Grammar School in 94 and 95. My role at the school now is to capture as many alumni as possible and grow that Newcastle Grammar family, and I feel quite passionate about that.
When you find your people here, you don't want to leave, and it's going to be really hard to do that. Yeah, you find people that are similar to you, who are different to you, and you make relationships that will last a lifetime.